Hello everybody, welcome to our presentation coming from Fitch Learning regarding the CFA Program exams. My name is Peter Menzies and I'm going to spend the next, say 45 minutes or so discussing what the CFA Program exams are all about and why Fitch Learning would be, I think, the best to help you pass first time across whichever level you are doing. As you can see, the sort of opening sort of sentence there is how we will help you pass these program exams. And it's all about commitment, no doubt about it. I myself, being a CFA program instructor, for the last, say, 12 odd years, I have certainly come across all of the pitfalls, of course myself as a student in the program, also helping my delegates to pass as well. I know generally what areas delegates struggle with. So the presentation we have is covering those common pitfalls. And obviously, as a training company, why we believe we can help you overcome those pitfalls. So generally, we'll have a look at some of that. And of course, I'll explain to you why Fitch Learning's program and product is different to perhaps anything else you can get or see out there. And then at the end of that, I'll just give you some information regarding what we have available for you and who you can get in touch with if you want to take it further. Okay, so thanks for joining me and welcome to this. Let's have a look. Firstly, of course, one of the pressing questions of anybody new to this area will be, well, what is the CFA Charter and why should I do it? Well, the CFA Charter is a professional designation given by the CFA Institute, and its main focus is measuring competency, so skill, and integrity, so ethical conduct of analysts, financial analysts across the world. The idea of competency, of course, is something you can say, well, doesn't other products and programs give me that? A Masters of Finance, an MBA, something of this nature. And the answer is yes, there are different products out there which will give you a test of competency. But I think that the CFA program is unique in the scope of areas it covers. It really is quite an amazing range of topics across valuation and portfolio management, economics, and also this idea of integrity is to say, well, not only do we want you to be good, we also want you to have an ethical conduct regarding decisions you make in the day-to-day business world. And such a big emphasis on ethical conduct is what makes the CFA program stand out, in my opinion. Having, as I'm sure you have as well, studied in other products and seen other things as a graduate, maybe you've done postgraduate stuff, but this, I assure you, is different for that reason. Now, the benefits of the CFA Charter, and I must explain, the CFA Charter is something which you get if you are able to successfully complete 3 levels of CFA program exams and also complete the necessary amount of work experience, which currently is 4 years. But if you do complete all of that, then you get the right to use the CFA program designation, which is internationally recognized. I mean, it's been around since the early 60s, and so it's had a lot of time to gain that recognition. Whether, of course, you say it began as a US-centric product, but it is now much more, shall we say, popular and certainly relevant in places like Asia, the Middle East, of course, and in Europe as well. So there's no sense of it being a US-centric. If you were to get this charter, you would generally have, I would say, a global passport, which means if you want to change where you work in industry, you want to change the area of finance you work in, you want to move countries, you will have the ability to do so because everybody knows that you are well qualified, skilled, and ethical. So there you go. It's a gold standard, as has been mentioned by many observers it's called the gold standard in finance. I think that is true. Of course, on the other hand, the obvious advantage of just knowing having the skill set, you have a workforce advantage. You have increased knowledge. So, obviously true for any qualification. Now, why? And I must say, you think, well, if it was so good, then everybody must be doing it. And certainly, you'd imagine if they had the time, they would. But time is the key stumbling block to the CFA Charter, because the CFA Institute, which are the body which produces the CFA program, suggests that you spend at least 300 hours as a mere guideline per level. So that's actually 900 hours across 3 levels if we were talking about finishing everything. Now, 300 hours, talking about, what's that, 20 weeks? 20 weeks of 15 hours a week? Now, that's 4 months, 5 months, 4 or 5 months of giving that amount of time, 15 to 20 hours a week, right? That's basically what you need to do. Now, if you imagine you're a full-time working person, which I know generally you are, you're going to have to put that in terms of giving up your evenings and most of the hours of your weekend, which would leave pretty much only a time to do chores, shopping, whatever. Outside leisure time is what gets sacrificed. And if you're doing that for 4 months to 5 months of the year, across 3 years, you can imagine how much of a sacrifice I'm talking about. This is why so many people give up. Not because they can't do the work, because they just don't have the time or don't want to sacrifice the time. And so our opening line is, if you commit, then we will commit. The idea is, if you are happy to do that amount of study, we have all the resources to get you to pass. No guarantees, of course, but you have to give yourself the chance. You put the work in, we will give you all the support you need. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the actual syllabus and format of the CFA program, this is actually exactly what it is. Now, I must say that level 1 of the program runs twice a year. So as you may already know, it runs in June, it runs in December. It will run this June, of course, of 18. It will run in December of 18 as well. So I suspect that if you are thinking about the level 1 program exam, generally you're thinking about December. But although if you are thinking about June, then we do have some products available to you, even at this stage, which you might want to look at. Okay. Now, level 2 and level 3 of the program only run in June. Okay, so as you can see here, level 1 is, as it says here, it's a 2 3-hour multiple choice paper, a 2 3-hour multiple choice paper containing 120 questions. So that is, we can do it right away, 180 minutes for 120 questions. That's 1.5 minutes a question. So you're blitzing through lots of material, lots of questions, but they're quite short, sharp, sentences to say, well, do you understand this, and we can test you quickly. There's no case study. There are not a group of questions related to a case study. There's no vignette or case study. It's just one question in isolation, followed by another question, and so forth in isolation. No follow-on questions. And you are expected to cover the material in the following weightings. You want to just have a look. These are the weightings. Now, what stands out to me is the heaviest topics. If we just highlight ethics, FR and A. Let's start with let's go straight away. Now, yes, accounting. Financial reporting analysis, accounting analysis is the largest single topic. So you're thinking about coming into level 1 program without any accounting background. This is where you will likely spend the most of your time. And at Fitch Learning, we basically focus on the analysis, accounting analysis, as soon as possible. Because most of our delegates don't have an accounting background. Or if they do, I must say, that doesn't necessarily give you much of an advantage, because you're coming at it at the point of an analyst of accounts, not as a constructor of accounts. So we're going to say not build the accounts, but actually here are some accounts, now unpick the story. So that has got to be the most important point about level 1. The level 1 program, the accounting. And just to say that the ethics, you can see it's the second biggest area, 15%. The questions are not common sense, if you like. You can spot it just by saying, oh, what's the right thing to do in this scenario? The answers they give you all could be justified, but one is always the best response. And the only way to know that is to have read their examples. They give you lots of examples in their material. We will, of course, supplement that with our own material. But it's through hours and hours of practice that you understand, right, this is what's expected of me given 3 very, should we say, reasonable answers. Yeah? Now, as you go into levels 2 and 3, what you find is that the focus is more on application and obviously then delivering solutions to problems. So level 2 is about more in-depth analysis. I must say level 2 for many is often considered to be the toughest level because it's so in-depth, but it is still multiple choice. So as you can see, 15 to 20% multiple choice on accounting analysis. And if we look at other key areas like equity analysis, there we go, equities, that's massive as well. Derivatives, these are all areas which you would have seen in level 1, but you are doing a lot more in-depth calculation. It's understanding has been done, and let's make you crunch a number. Let's say we want you to work out goodwill from an M&A transaction. Let's say we want to work out some kind of required return on equity using a model. We want you to work out the stock price based upon free cash flows. Derivatives, we want you to value a forward contract during its life. Yeah. So the focus is, the concepts, but now we want you to do some hardcore valuation. And the material comes at you, say, in a vignette style, which means case studies are given to you where you have 6 questions on a case study. Now, while the questions are standalone, the point is that you have to synthesize what you need from the case study to answer a question and what you don't need. And that is a very tough skill, isn't it, to know what's irrelevant and what's relevant. So, much more in depth, and as you can see, the topic areas which are key. I mean, obviously, if you were to get through level 2, then into level 3, we see that it's much more focused on what I would say portfolio analysis, or basically constructing a portfolio, analysing a portfolio, which would be a written style response. The morning paper, there are 2 3-hour papers, one morning, one afternoon, and the first paper is essay, the second paper is like level 2, a vignette style multiple choice. But here, of course, you are now able to show the CFA Institute, what do you know about investments? Bring it all together. Risk, return, diversify, hedge, whatever you're doing. You're having to bring it all together from the first 2 levels. So, as you can see, I must say, ethics never loses its importance across the 3 levels. It's always pretty much a main, or one of the main topics. But that's it. That's the feel of it. And the range of topics that you can see is broad. Even until level 3, we get there still broad. Yes, the accounting analysis finishes at level 2. We don't do that in level 3. But otherwise, you're doing pretty much everything, but in terms of now showing what you know. 2 3-hour papers a day, sat in June for all 3 levels, and sat in December for level 1. You are expected to get a reasonably high score across the 2 exams, not necessarily to do very well in both, right? To do well enough across 2 exams is what you need. But you might be thinking, well, what is the pass mark then? I have to get 70%, I've got to get 80%, what do I have to get? Well, the CFA Institute does not actually say you have to get a certain percentage, but you must score high enough for them to be happy to give you a pass. Often, what you'll be given in the on results day, which often is about 6 weeks after the exam, is a breakdown of your performance across these topics. Did you score above 70% in, say, accounting or economics? Did you score between 50 and 70? Or were you below 50? Generally, if you're scoring above 70 in an area, it is enough. It is sufficiently high competency. And obviously that means if you were going above 70 in all the topic areas, then you should be expecting to see a pass. Obviously, that would happen. But you don't have to get above 70 in all areas. Now, of course, you can see what would happen. If I get above 70% in ethics and accounting level 1, I'm well on the way to a pass. If I'm getting below 50 in accounting and ethics, probably not. So it works that way. There is no defined passing score, but you are expected to deliver a high enough result. And of course, you are compared, again, across the global audience taking the exam. So why, or indeed, guys, what indeed are the pass rates? Do you know? Are you aware of the pass rates for these exams? Well, generally, they will never go above 50%, and they range between 40 to 45 on average, which does seem fairly bad, doesn't it? Feel pretty low. And the people taking these exams, of course, are graduates who have a finance interest, and yet, even though they're a good, strong audience, they're not actually, majority of the time, they're failing the exam. Let's have a look at those pass rates. Okay, so there we go. See, across the levels, level 1, usually in the sort of low 40s, level 2, maybe the high 40s. Level 3 can go above 50% sometimes, but often it's going to be just about 50, just below 50 sometimes. Now, you might be thinking, well, these are the pass rates of Fitch Learning. No, these are the global pass rates of any candidate, whoever provider they use, or if they don't use any provider. You might want to know what our pass rates are at Fitch Learning, but I can't tell you. As you can see the disclaimer here, Fitch Learning is an official CFA Institute prep provider, and therefore we are not allowed to tell you our own pass rates. So I can't give you that information. But I can tell you that we've been doing and training towards the CFA program for, almost 20 years. Right? We have been doing this a long time and successfully. We've grown as a company, as a business, and therefore there must be something behind that. So I'll leave that to you, of course, to work and to think about it. But we have been around a long time, and we have a large full-time faculty. Also, our platform is second to none in terms of what we offer. I'll explain about what's called Cognition, our very successful award-winning platform. Now, question: why are the global pass rates? Why are they so low? Well, a number of reasons, but from experience and from what I've done over the years training as an instructor, often it's about the working, so say the actual efficiency of the revision. People are working either too intensely on one area. They waste time on trying to master one topic. Maybe it's their favorite topic, and they want to feel good about themselves. They spend a long time on an area they know pretty well, and they get really great at it, but then they sacrifice, of course, time in other areas. They don't finish getting a level of proficiency to do well enough, right? Across all the areas, they want to ace one topic. That's just crazy. So, in my opinion, working inefficiently, of course, starting too late means that the time just isn't there no matter what happens. Well, that's something which is a mistake to begin with. But working inefficiently. Now, those two areas of starting too late, working inefficiently, can be solved by a training provider saying to you, these are the deadlines for you to finish a topic. And if you are scoring sufficiently well in a topic, move on. Don't go back and do it again and do it again. Move on. So that's efficient working and working to a timeline, working to a timetable. Lack of study structure in terms of not knowing how to build your study, or you don't have, of course, a plan, focusing on the wrong areas. Now that's something which is, for example, you have material which is based upon learning outcomes. So CFA Institute would expect you to understand, in some cases, explain, calculate. There's always going to be a command word, right, behind a topic. And if I were to ignore that and say, well, here's a formula. Let's say it's skew or kurtosis of a distribution in quantitative methods, level 1. And I say, oh, well, I must learn that formula because obviously it's written in the book. I must learn it. Well, it doesn't say you have to calculate. It just says you have to understand what skew and kurtosis is. So you spending time learning the formula is an entirely waste of time. Yeah? Focusing on the wrong areas. So we would, of course, as a training provider, say, no, that's to explain. No, that's to calculate. Learn this formula. Don't waste time learning this formula. Yeah? Insufficient question practice. Now, as a delegate years ago, as a trainer for years, I know the success is always based upon doing enough questions. Now, it might seem surprising to you, but we recommend our delegates doing or spending about 70% of the overall study time question practice, not reading. So obviously you have to read a topic to know what's going on. But as soon as possible, get yourself into a question. Now, you might think, well, I want to master the area first before I do questions. Well, when you're doing questions, you obviously will find your weak areas. You'll go back, you'll see where did you make a mistake, you'll plug that gap, you do the question again. Yes, maybe you know the answer, but now it's about, do you understand the answer? Have you seen why you got it wrong the first time? Of course, then move on. And question practice is the most way to be so robust in your study. As opposed to spending hours writing notes, neat, with all the, should we say, all the colours and all the sort of key that you might put into it, saying, well, this is a really beautiful set of notes here. But it's not a university course. You're a working person. You need to be doing question practice mainly to get yourself through. And of course, finally, poor exam technique would mean, things like you're rushing, you're effectively changing your answers, you're basically trying to second guess yourself during the exam. You get no good night's sleep. Obviously things like that. That's just true of any exam, of course. Now, how can we help combat all this problem? Well, you will get from Fitch Learning a personalized study planner. From the date you sign up, you are basically going to be given a timeline through what are called the Cognition Portal, which is the online Fitch Learning portal for CFA material. You can access everything there through Cognition, but you also access a study planner, shows you what's coming up in your plan, class attendance, for example, sample exams, mock exams, progress tests, whatever is coming up, and you need to be ready for this. We optimize your time with Cognition. Cognition, the online portal and app available for iOS and Android phones. Absolutely, you have access to questions, recordings of material. You have access to the whole lot. And therefore, even if you've got like 5 minutes spare in lunch break or 10 minutes spare, whatever, thinking, well, no point getting my books open, no point looking at anything. Well, there's always something you can do on Cognition. We have 5-minute videos, lots and lots of bite-sized videos, followed by questions on those videos. So surely you could always do something. Targeting weaker areas. Now, the point about it is, with Cognition, it's a really smart bit of kit. It's really smart because what it does, through its algorithms and all this smart stuff going on behind the scenes, is for a particular candidate, it starts to see where you're making mistakes. Of course, that takes time to build up a picture, but after some time, I'll say, okay. Now, adaptive learning means adapting to you. The Cognition portal will give you knowledge checks, which will throw at you your weak areas. So you don't get away with saying, well, okay, if I get 10 questions, it'll be the 10, luckily, the questions I know, the ones I've been getting right. When I do like an end of knowledge check, say, right, you've been getting lots of questions here, but we know, the system knows you'll be getting this area wrong. Let's say deferred tax in accounting. Let's give you a lot of deferred tax questions. Now, of course, if you get through that, that proves that since you were making mistakes, you've learned your mistakes. You know the answers now. You understand the topic now. And then the Cognition board says, right, tick, get a nice gold badge or something to say, right, you've mastered this area, now move on to the next topic. That's smart. Cognition does that, and I don't think there's anything like it out there for CFA training, CFA program training. You also get support from our experienced faculty members. Now, I myself, as I say, have been training for the CFA program for 10 years. My colleagues, some of them are doing a lot more, 15 years in some cases, 20 years. Now, the point is that across even just London's faculty, probably that adds up to easily in excess of 100 years of experience. That's just London. Now, what that does is, that means that when we are training, when we are answering questions, we can always talk to each other and say, right, what do we think is the best and most, shall we say, the key area to focus on in terms of questions we write, in terms of material we produce. Where do questions tend to focus? Where do delegates tend to struggle? How can we solve that? You only get that from experience, don't you? And we certainly have that. So, I hope that makes sense, everybody. Hope that makes sense. Now, as I say, we've been training for years. I mean, 20-odd years approximately we've been in this business. And we have successfully trained, as you can see, thousands of people per year over those 20 years. We have a global, right, full-time faculty. So we have training in London, New York, Toronto, you can see Singapore, Dubai, right, across the world. We have offices, we have trainers, full-time trainers in all of these offices. And our clients are all the, shall we say, the big names. I don't have to read this out to you, can see. We are successful partners with these companies in their training of their employees. So I hope that shows you can be confident that we are good at what we do. But your story, of course, is unique. Your problems will be unique. So the main thing is, because we have experience, we can always find a solution to what your problem is. Now, your program journey with Fitch Learning will be based upon certain sort of fundamental steps, and these are the steps. So it's about, when you first sign up, basically, you have a schedule that you're working from, or say working towards, timetable. And then, of course, comes the learning phase. Learning phase as in material coming at you, and you're having to learn new concepts. We try to keep that bite-sized, small chunks, so you're not overwhelmed. You can always do a little bit of learning. 5-minute videos, like I say. 5 questions on the 5-minute video. Something like that. And then, when you finish the learning, you do a progress check. You do a progress check to see, right, have I understood this topic well enough? Let's say I've done lots of bite-sized material on cash flow statements. Do a progress check on that. And adaptive learning. Adaptive, it should be a check to see your weak areas. Are you successful in your weak areas? That means you're good enough to move on. And then once you've gone through all of that, we think that you are then strong enough in all areas. You should start to do a review. Review would mean to look at mock exams, look at doing tests across all the topics. And that should be done soon enough for you to be successful for the final exam. Okay? We will, of course, support you through all the levels of your program journey. Yeah? We are able and ready to do all of that. Now, just to say, these are some screenshots of Cognition. So you can see there, when you first sign up, the idea of having a schedule in place, you'd have basically a timeline or timetable, what's coming up in the following weeks. Have you got some kind of review course? You've got some kind of classroom training, maybe a test. You'll also have some scary things like the countdown to the exam, days to your exam, which will be the scariest thing to look at, of course. But readings that you have to still complete. Readings means chapters that you have to complete, and of course there'll always be a knowledge check, as I say, after you've finished a series of learning bits and bite-sized videos. And so as you are completing these, because these numbers will vary, they'll go down, which means you are getting towards where you need to be. So having that in place is critical, I think. And of course, the learning phase is about this idea of, for any given area, let's say we take ethical professional standards. Now, it says, right, you've completed successfully 0 of 5 readings. Okay, so there are 5 chapters in ethics and professional standards, which is worth a massive 15% of my exam. So I'll be expected to go through all of the readings, which is found in study session 1. Yeah? Ethical professional standards. The study session is a topic area. There are 5 readings. Each reading will have its own set of bite-sized material. Watch a video, or in fact, if you come into classes, of course, you will come to a class, but you'll have bite-sized checks on your knowledge. At the end of that, you'll have some kind of knowledge check, study session test, if it's so called, and if you do well enough on those, you'll then, of course, be prompted to move on to the next topic, which could be, for example, quantitative methods, so forth. So this is what it's all about. There is so many questions that you can tackle, and the key feature, these thousands of questions available to you per topic, means that you have lots of time to, shall I say, practice and learn from the questions, and our answers are always, shall we say, comprehensive. I myself always like to see answers which are thorough, which mean I don't have to search around in other material like my e-books, for example. The question answer gives me everything I need to know. I can learn from the answer if I didn't know already. Yeah? And I think that you'll find that with Fitch Learning. Now, once the learning phase, this breaks it down into further. I mean, as you can see here, we have a nice system to show. You've got your study session. You'd have your readings in a study session. Let's say here you've got reporting analysis, study session 6. You'll have readings in that study session, and then you'll have knowledge checks. Now, the idea is to get the knowledge checks done to a degree of accuracy, and then once it's all completed, you'll do a study session test, which is covering everything, all the readings in one go. So you don't. What we call it is atomizing. The key word is atomizing the knowledge. Not only do we test you by chapter, the CFA Institute will test you by chapter, by reading. You'll have reading tests in the e-books of CFA Institute. We test you not by reading, but by topics or areas of study in the reading. And that atomizes, and that makes it easier because you don't have to read the whole reading, right? To do some questions. Just do 1 page of material if you like. And you're ready now to do some questions. Yeah. Now, you'll always be able to say, check your progress. Your course progress will be seen by an overview of, are you on track, basically. So in our sort of selection here, you can see, in ethics, I've got a green sort of filled in box to show that I'm, scheduled to do now. But I haven't completed all of the readings to a sufficient standard. Others I'm overdue on, so that's not good. I've got to make sure my timeline shows me I should have done those, haven't done them yet. Anything in purple would be completed, which in this case none of it is completed. But the point is, all of it to go purple by the end, on time. Yeah? And each of these boxes basically relating to some sort of knowledge check which has to be done in that section. Now, the review phase is always towards the end of the program with Fitch Learning. So, for example, for June exams, May would be the month for reviewing. Now, if you're thinking about maybe, you're going for the June exam for level 1 or 2 or 3, we do have availability for that, so you can get access to material from us. There's also classroom review courses available. in New York, London and Dubai. And there's also the online review course available for level 1, 2 and 3, available from the 4th of May. So if you are taking a June exam, clearly if you like, the classroom sessions for covering material has already finished or coming to an end. But review courses are all about question practice and analysis of questions. So generally 2 days is what you need in a classroom, 2 full days, 9 to 5 o'clock. And you come across to a classroom in London, New York, or indeed Dubai, and you'll go through that. And of course, once you come to a classroom, you'll hear what other delegates are struggling with. You can ask the trainer specific areas you're struggling with, and we'll give you lots of stuff to take with you. So you'll get summaries, what they call a final countdown, which is a summary of formulas and facts, which is great for the final few days of your exam. You get mock exams. You'll get access to mind maps and various things like this nature. So all stuff which is great for your final few weeks, which is why it happens in the final few weeks. Now, if you can't come along to a classroom session, then, as I say, we will be releasing on Cognition all the material, so recordings of all of that and the access to all the questions through the portal, available from the 4th of May, which, in my opinion, is plenty of time for you to, of course, use it in advance of the mid-June exam. So if you're interested in that for any level 1, 2 or 3 people, for June 18, I'll give you the details in a moment who you can get in touch with to book or get access to that. But of course, for anybody doing December exam for level 1, December only, of course, level 1, there is also, of course, all of the courses available right from the beginning, which begins in sort of late June, early July, going up until November. Your review will be November. You'll have everything available for you, of course, still for that. But the review course, as I say, will go through all the tests that we could give you across all topic areas, and mock exams. For example, 5 mock exams available for level 1 alone. Yeah, one exam we generally would have a live sitting of, so that you come and have the experience of an actual classroom, what you would call, given the Scantron sheets to fill in with a pencil and having that gone off and scanned by a computer. So you're given that real feel of what it is on the day. And you get a feedback of how you performed against your cohort, right? Just like you would be graded against your cohort globally when you take the final exam. So I like that idea of having that competition. But if you can't make the classroom session exam, don't worry, you can download it from Cognition and take it in your own time. Yeah? And the other exam, mock exams, like I say, there are 5 in total for level 1. You have 4 others which you can just access when they're released in May. There are other sort of key features. So like I say, you have access to your mock exams from the review tab. Generally, of course, taken in May or in November. There are also exam technique workshops you can look at, which is basically good common sense stuff about how you should plan and to take your exam under the right conditions for success. So all of that available. Now, we have a variety of study options to fit your needs because, of course, various delegates, some will have the ability to study in the daytime, some only the evenings, some only weekends. So we basically offer a range of flexible options. Please note that all of the classroom options you might select, if you do select any of the classroom options, will always be available alongside the online Cognition. Always alongside. So, for example, daytime, evening, weekend options are available. Daytime means 9 to 5, and you'll have generally 2 days a week across the 4 months. 10 days, for example, level 1, teaching, and then 2 days review, right? 9 to 5 full days. Evenings would mean 6 to 8:30, so an evening is effectively half a day. So 20 evenings of training and then 4 evenings of review. Varies per region, as I say. Please check our website. I'll give you the email addresses to contact regarding that. If you're coming into it from the perspective you've done some work and you want to just have a blitz of material, intensive program might be for you. That's 5 full days, Monday to Friday, in months April, May, or indeed October, November, whichever one you're going for. And as I say, all of that is blended with online learning, which will give you full access to all of our Cognition portal, access online or via the mobile app. Okay, and in any case, whatever you take, always have access to the global faculty through the help desk. And we aim to get back to you within a day. And I say, with a big faculty like we have, you're generally going to get back in answers much sooner than a day. Okay, so your next steps, everybody, what you've got to think about is what learning option you want to have, and then I'll give you the details of who to get in touch with, your local learning advisor, and some special offer for those taking Level 1 December exams. If you do book with us for any of our products by the 24th of April, you'll actually get 10% off the cost of that. So in case you're interested, do get along and book quickly to take advantage. I say that you will give you the details of who the advisor is. And here it is. So please note the contact your local learning advisor to discuss all your options and, of course, to get your discount by the 24th of April. And besides that, I hope you found the session informative. I hope that you take advantage of Fitch Learning for your training. But in any way, I wish you very best of luck for your exams. I hope you pass with flying colours and look forward to seeing you in the near future. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye for now.